don't worry. We'll give people the chance and the time to do bits, just because we have decided to do it differently today. What we need to do is we're just going to very, very quickly. I don't know why I'm doing it on there when I can do it on here. So if you're watching live, C is rat, mostly because I didn't have enough F's to spell muffin. Is the short answer there. We're just going to keep ready. So the connection might go a little bit funny, but we're going to persevere on this one. It is going to be different. Exploiting a gap in the market. Very true, John. Very, very true. We're giving it a go and kind of seeing what happens, I think, is the best way to describe this. We're going to hit that. Mostly because it has occurred to me now that I can actually use my phone to do things, which is very, very different. But we figured we'd give it a go just because of some of the tech issues we've had the last couple of occasions on the phone. So why not use the tech we have to hand and kind of see how it goes. Let's give people a moment or two, just because people will like to give people the opportunity to kind of join and see how things are going. Because of course, this is very, very different. Normally you log on to Twitter and my face is there staring at you. So we'll give people the opportunity just to kind of an extra minute. I think we'll probably give people just to kind of hop in as well. Also, it gives me the opportunity to pull up the bits and pieces that I need to pull up. Where have we gone? There we go. It's pulling up all the notes as well. See, people are slowly starting to creep in. But so we'll just take a moment, take a breath, take a water, and then we shall see what comes of it. The utter chaos that is here. The wider view, of course, using a slightly wider camera because of this here at BOTW Towers. Either way, I think we probably need to get rocking and rolling on this one, given the time. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid, and everyone beyond the binary. It is Wednesday night. It's just after 8 p.m. And welcome back, and welcome to YouTube for the first time in a very, very long time for the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here bringing you all of the news and action and views from across the National Ice Hockey League here in Britain. We focus on the National Division. That is our home port. That is our bread and butter. But of course, we have a look at absolutely everything from the National Division, as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. Hello! Greetings from the world of YouTube and wider lens cameras and a bunch of different weird and wonderful technology. It's not my phone. My phone is in my hand. The laptop is in front of me for a change, which makes things very different and very weird. If you're joining us for the first time, normally we are on Twitter Live, but today we're doing it on Facebook just to kind of test out the tech and see how it goes and see how we feel about it, because experimentation is a sign of growth, and that's always a really good thing. However, we're here to talk about British ice hockey, more specifically the National Ice Hockey League structure and the 5 divisions of it. A bit of housekeeping before we start, because it's YouTube. Trying to think where it will be. It'll probably be either that side or that side. Down the side, anyhow, is the chat function. Comments, questions, anything else. This isn't a monologue. It is a dialogue between myself and all of you lovely people. Please do feel free to stick your views and opinions and bits and pieces like that in the chat, just as if we were on Twitter. You do, of course, have to have a YouTube account to do that, or at least a Google account to do that. But, of course, if you are using the chat function, please remember the golden rule. DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's... people incorrect first off. Oh, it's there. Is it there? Is it there? But yeah, be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings if you use the chat. That's the really important bit here. We don't want it. We're not here to be idiots or anything like that. Let's have a nice amount of a nice chat and keep rocking and rolling from there. The other bit of housekeeping, of course, battlesonthewall.wordpress.com. Your number one's also everything related to the bases at Bison for the last 11 plus years. Player comings, player goings, match reports. The latest running with the herd. From this weekend, from the Bison's game against the Bees, went live yesterday. I was a little bit grumpy, so grumpy that I managed to end up. I still post it anyway, despite some very sad news, which we'll kind of talk about in a moment. But that kind of needed to be said. The Bison on a 6-game losing skid at the moment. It is not good, and certainly the performances against against Romford, against the Bees, and against Bristol. We're definitely not up to muster. So there was a few things that kind of needed to be said in that moment. So there we go on that front. Normally, happy-go-lucky. At the moment, less so, because they're not playing very well. And sometimes you just have to state the obvious for the sheer basis of catharsis. Either way, there's a bunch of stuff, both old and new, as well as not just Bison stuff as well, but of course, our Hockey Stories series, where I look at the weird, wacky, and bizarre world of ice hockey, normally with a bit of a British slant, but we've got things from hockey history dating back to things touching on the Cold War, different countries, referees, players, bizarre experiences, and because I started writing it today and I interviewed somebody for it on Monday, a really, really good Hockey Stories is coming. It is coming. I've written about 500 words of an interview up today. I spoke to my interview subject for about an hour and 40 minutes on Monday. So it's going to be a bumper one. And believe me, this is a big one. This is a big one. We're going to the top with this one. And I'm not kidding about that. Should be a lot of fun. That one. Either way, let's quickly touch on, because there's been a few bits of news that have been flying around. News, of course, in the last 15 minutes or so. But signing news today, Olli Endicott's adventure in Finland has come to an end. A bunch of different reasons that have been flying around as potentially as to why. Some were that it's potentially visa related, but either way, Olli Endicott has left IPK's on the under 20 side in Finland, and he is back in the NIHL, and he is back. Well, he's not back with the Swindon Wildcats. He's gone to the Leeds Knights because, of course, the one thing Leeds needed was more forward depth. Undefeated at the top of the NIHL National Division table, the Knights decide their way to do things was to sign a really solid middle six piece who has absolutely no fear whatsoever. However, very much kind of fits in with the mold. Ryan Aldrich has coached Olli Endicott in the past. However, this is a really sensible signing for Leeds. We're starting to get into that part of the season where injuries are starting to take their toll on teams. And what this is another piece for Leeds. However, for Endicott to get time, somebody else is going to get less time, and what will happen with them. Now, Leeds do have a fair few two-way players in situ, so it may mean less time for somebody like Damani James, for example. But again, there are going to be injuries and there are going to be incidents and guys potentially being unavailable. Endicott coming into that side just makes this already very, very good Leeds side much better. And they've not just added another out-and-out scorer, they've added out a guy who can do that crashing and banging job, that third line role, a guy who's definitely not afraid to go into the corners to make the hits. And he's that really young age that is kind of keeping with the majority of that Leeds roster as well. So Ryan Aldrich has gotten really fortunate there, because not only has he had a guy land in his lap, but he's had a guy in his lap two type as well. If you think about that Leeds roster, Zajac, Hayward, Cooper. I mean, not even Brooks really counts in terms of old. I mean, he's a tiny bit older, but not that much. And so, there's definitely Olli Endicott is almost a tailor-made signing for Leeds. If you're a Swindon fan, you're probably a little bit disappointed he didn't necessarily come home per se. But given that this was a season where Endicott was meant to be kind of spreading his wings, going out into the big wide world, and he's ended up at further away from home than just returning back to what you knew. So, and you can't blame Endicott as well for when the opportunity comes up for signing for the undefeated top of the table team. I don't think many people would look that gift horse in the mouth, irrespective of what their role on that lineup might be. That's then coupled, of course, with the departure that's just been released in the last, now 20 minutes or so, that Dan Weller-Evans, for personal reasons, leaves the Bees. He's put a longer personal statement on his Facebook, which we will very, very quickly see if we can just quickly pull up, because it was a pretty decent one on Dan's part. We're just going to very, very quickly see if we can find it, because it was pretty decent on Dan's part. He's gone into a bit more depth rather than the B statement, which was Dan's left for personal reasons. So just reading this. Bees fans, following the news I've decided to depart the team, I just wanted to put a message out for total transparency and to explain why I've made this decision. Towards the end of last season in the summer, I was back and forth on whether I wanted to play hockey anymore, having played at a decent level for the last 13 years. And with the natural progression of life and external factors taking priority, I was wondering and was comfortable with the idea that my time had come to an end. In the end, I decided to play and give it another go around. But in the last month or so, I realised I couldn't give the club, the coach, and my teammates what was required in order to positively contribute both on and off the ice. This has become more and more evident in recent weeks. And so it's a little apology from me because the on-ice performances from myself that you all see have been nothing short of poor. I'll finish off by saying thank you to all. You were fantastic and really welcoming when I joined the club in February and have been nothing but supportive of my time with the Bees. To the guys and girls behind the scenes who work so hard and their contributions to the club are not seen and recognised as much as they should be. And lastly, to my teammates, again, they were all really welcoming when I joined. And it was so nice to get to know those I didn't know and see some familiar faces that I'd known for some time. I'm confident these boys can turn things around and get the results the fans want and deserve. I wish everyone involved with the Bees nothing but the best going forward. Now, time to take a break and spend some time at home with my family. And if something comes up that I can manage, then I might be back in the hockey world at some point. Best wishes, Dan. So, obviously you can't fault somebody when they kind of come up with when they come in with reasoning like that. You've got to make the best decision for yourself at the end of the day. Semi-professional hockey, even professional hockey, anything like that, which is effectively kind of something that has a limited shelf life and life playing sport is ultimately a finite thing. It means that at the end of the day will come, and actually, if you decide that if you can't do it right now, the best thing you can do is to take a step back from it. And being a netminder as well in the NIHL, irrespective of the level, is being a netminder in hockey in general is a really, really tough thing to be. If it's not something you feel that you can kind of give your all to right now, then that is, Dan's made the right decision for Dan. On a personal level, I've known Dan for a really, really long time, since he was 15, and he's now nearly 30. And so this is a very, very, from knowing Dan, this decision will be incredibly well thought out. It won't have been made to kind of inconvenience anybody, or he will have made it for the best reasons for himself. So the man that was been labelled the good egg, and I stand by that because I think Dan is definitely one of the better people I've met in my time in hockey. Hopefully this isn't the end, because at 29 he's still got a lot he can contribute to the game. So hopefully this isn't his end point with hockey. But all the best to him. The question now, of course, comes up for the Bees of what do they do? It's already a very short benched side, and the Bees do not have a great amount of options lying around. Now, they don't have the greatest of relationships with Slough, with the Slough Jets organisation, because, as you might well have noticed, a lot of those Slough players haven't been guesting for the Bees. They've been guesting for Bristol instead. So where do Bracknell get an extra goalie? Well, I venture, given the fact that this has all come relatively quickly, Dan's departure was, having done a tiny bit of digging around, this departure came earlier on this week. So the departure was an immediate thing. There wasn't a notice period served here. It was a case of both sides cutting ties, agreeing to go their separate ways. So who replaces him is going to be an interesting one. There aren't tons of goalkeepers available around. One person who would potentially be in the line of fire might be Chris Mollett, who's currently with the Oxford. Ben Mollett, Chris Mollett's his dad. Ben Mollett of the Oxford Rising Stars. Ben, as a Slough junior last year, backed up the Bees on a number of occasions. He potentially could be getting a phone call, given the fact that obviously there's a lot more games in South 2 than North 2, but the schedule does wax and wane quite a bit. Could Ben be persuaded to come back into the Bees? Danny Milton is a name I could see mentioned there in chat by Jamie, but Danny's obviously Danny's at Chelmsford now, I want to say. So he's obviously got commitments. He might want to come back, or he might want to come back over this way, given where he lives. There aren't a great amount of names, though. I do wonder if initially Stretton, thank you, Joe. Yes, I knew Danny was around somewhere. Why do I think he was at Chelmsford? Then again, I seem to think everybody at that level's at Chelmsford. I thought Tyler Della Bertucci was at Chelmsford at one stream during this season. But who steps into that gap is obviously going to be quite difficult. There just aren't that many goalies around right now. I venture this weekend you might see the Bees just play with the one goalie, at least for a little bit. The Bees have been using a few Solent players this year, so maybe Cole from Solent. If they didn't have a game, I mean, from a geographical perspective, to see Chico step up would not be an impossibility. But Chico's not going to want to play backup. He's not going to want to just go and sit around. Watch this space. Well, yes, I don't think that Bees would have announced this in the immediacy if there wasn't some plan, I think, on that front. The other news then, of course, we probably do need to touch on very briefly, although not sort of directly in IHL, but very much British hockey related, is the very untimely passing of former many team playing, mostly better known for his times in the Super League with Cardiff and with Nottingham, which is the passing of, and he obviously did some coaching in Cardiff as well, and commentary for the BBC at the Olympics, which is the passing of Brent Pope at the age of 49 from cancer. We've lost a few names in British hockey over the last little while. And it's very, obviously the passing of Andre Payet hit the community quite hard. And, there was a period at Cardiff where Brent Pope was not a popular man, but for some of his coaching and some of his off-ice decisions. But it is nice to kind of see British hockey kind of rally around somebody who did a lot for the sport in this country. I know the Ice Hockey UK a statement about this, said he had moved back to Canada following his diagnosis, and it's just 49 is no age. It's no age to be passing away, given how long people can live at the moment. It's sad and it's infuriating because there's another person gone too soon. I mean, Pyatt at 46, Pope at 49. It's just a very, very sad thing to see, and ultimately, just that. We say it in there, but we think of his friends and his family and his former teammates and everybody at this time. But kind of wherever he's watching from, I hope the view is good. I hope the beer is cold. May the hockey that you get to watch wherever you are, Brent, be enjoyable to you wherever you are. So here's to you, and the memories will last, I'm sure, for many people. Either way, he says very, very desperately, just quickly flicking back on the Twitter just to make sure nothing else catastrophic has happened in the last little while. No one else has nobody else has said anything. I've just seen your tweet there, John. Thank you for that. Oh, well, we have had some news sent our way. Our friends in Billingham forwarded this to us because the front page of the Lancashire Telegraph has a story. Ice hockey boss in racist tweet storm. Club bosses have suspended Blackburn Hawks Cohen and Graham Lomax over a string of racist tweets. That's not ideal at all. So what we will do is we will quickly pull that. Unfortunately, pull that nonsense up just very, very quickly while we have a look at it. See if we can get this news up, as that appears to have broken. Brent Pope was a very nice man, John. Indeed, I saw your photograph that you'd posted with us. But yeah, questions, comments, anything, any Brent Pope memories that you want to that people want to chuck in. Definitely happy to hear those. Not a man I knew very well, but I'm more than happy to kind of hear people's stories. He actually was in Basingstoke the season before I got to Basingstoke, so he was unfortunately slightly just before my time. Because in that 04-05 season, he played for the Raiders for a bit, and then came to Basingstoke for a few games. Let's just see whether that's made its way there. There's a lot of football there. Whether that story's actually made it off of the front page onto the Lancashire Telegraph's website. That's by the look of it, unfortunately, but definitely there. Let's have a quick look actually while we're talking about this and see if there's anything on the Blackburn Hawks website. See if we can find anything on there. So apologies for not sort of leaping straight into what we usually do, but given that's quite a sizable bit of news. We should probably very, very quickly check that out. So apologies for kind of going quiet. But yeah, questions, comments. Muffin Gate. Well, that's loading, yeah. If people haven't seen this either, there's a great little bit of news out of and a little bit of a tiny bit of a faux pas from our friends in Milton Keynes, leaving their sort of their scouting report about Peterborough attached to the wall of the dressing room. In Peterborough, some absolute classics. If you've not seen the photographs, I did retweet it earlier this week. But yeah, certainly a great. Here's the thing: so Milton Keynes, I know, and somebody tweeted at me, they were trying to sort out getting players to hospital more than worried about taking things off the wall, and that's fine. Here's the thing: I don't think genuinely anybody thinks any less of MK because of it. However, it's a little bit funny. It's just a teeny tiny little bit funny because Milton Keynes are already not the most popular side in the national division anyway, for a bunch of different reasons for a bunch of different people. All this has done has just given folk a little bit of a stick to poke them with. Hashtag my MK scouting report if you want to add to the fun that a few of us had earlier this week about that one. And ultimately, what it is just funny. The other thing is that what it is that why would you give your opposition, and not only that, your local rivals, ammunition? This goes back to that Swindon fan who called the Bison basic, and then subsequently Swindon turned up for the next game in Bison and got slapped about. That was good fun. All this is just Milton Keynes saying something silly. Right, we have a statement here on the Blackburn Hawks website, which we will look at. Okay. So today, Wednesday the 2nd of October, the Blackburn Hawks Ice Hockey Club has been made aware of tweets posted in 2013 on the Twitter account of now Hawks co-owner Graham Lomax that were considered racist in nature. Initial investigations had led us to believe the matter was dealt with at the time by the police and that Mr. Lomax was cautioned for racially aggravated comments and a public apology was made. However, to enable the club to carry out its own detailed investigation, immediate action has been taken by club director Carl Everett to suspend co-owner Graham Lomax from all club duties pending the outcome of that investigation. In 2013, when the tweets were published, Mr. Lomax was neither a director nor co-owner of the Blackburn Hawks IHC, and the club was unaware until today of the existence of the tweets. The club has been assured by Mr. Lomax it is incredibly remorseful of any offence that may be caused by those tweets in 2013, and that the offending tweets have now been removed from his Twitter account to avoid any further offence. Mr. Lomax gives us his assurance that the content of those tweets does not reflect the views he now holds. As a club, we have a zero tolerance policy on behaviour or language that's considered discriminative or prejudiced in nature, and any reports of this kind of behaviour from any individual officially involved in our club will be investigated thoroughly in line with the club's code of conduct. The community team and senior management, which includes Mr. Lomax, has worked tirelessly to engage our community, and this has involved visiting schools, including BAME schools, and the club has run workshops to educate and share our passion for ice hockey. Through our Hawks Junior Academy, we've recently secured grant funding specifically designed to help us expand engagement with the whole community, including the BAME community in Blackburn and surrounding areas. We believe that everyone can enjoy learning to play or just watching ice hockey, and we hope to give people an opportunity to do so through our efforts and support. We hope that this very much that this incident from 2013 does not damage the good work we want to continue to do. When we investigate this matter, we cannot comment further. However, we wish to assure everyone that we remain an inclusive club that welcomes everyone regardless of their beliefs, faith, and ethnicity. So, that's a very good statement, actually, from the Hawks. Fair play. Fair play on that one. The Lancashire Telegraph pieces tomorrow's front page are probably out there. But yeah, so we've at least got the statement there from the Hawks about it. You've obviously had a chance to look at that photo a bit of the front page closer than I did, Joe. So thank you for that. So there we are. For me, that's actually a relatively good statement from the Hawks, I think, in terms of what they've been able to provide there. And we've got, they've acknowledged that something has happened. They've suspended their co-owner from activity whilst they sort of investigate stuff. And my interest here is what the IHA do about this, if anything. Were the IHA aware of any previous issues that Graham Lomax had? Now, Graham Lomax has been relatively outspoken about a bunch of bits and pieces regarding things that have happened in NHL 1 North over the last couple of years. He's a very vocal gentleman. Although in the time I've been aware of his existence, he's never said anything racist that I am aware of. However, I find this really interesting that the club has taken this action so quickly against one of the, not just against, it's not just an official for the club, it's the co-owner of the team. So I think Blackburn being the very large, diverse, multi-ethnic part of the world that it is, I think that's good action. Obviously, that statement is an attempt on there and get ahead of the game as much as they can do. It'll be interesting to read the report in the Lancashire Telegraph tomorrow when it comes out, I'd be interested to see the wording there, because obviously there's been a lot of talk about in a variety of different sports, cricket, a lot of it about sort of historic racism from people. 2013 is 9 years ago, and people can 100% change. So I'm very interested to see what the outcome of the investigation is, because obviously this will be an internal one from the Hawks themselves, combined with anything the IHA do in terms of any investigations they want to hold into this as well. Those of you who've not had the chance to see this, I will just very, very quickly. We'll just quickly set that up on the Twitter as well. It's not doing, however, it's not being very, very helpful. Not quite copying the way I want it to. There we go. So we'll at least put that there so people can have a look at it. Either way, we need to very, very quickly start having a look through the results and bits and pieces like that from the National Ice Hockey League. The question I will ask the people in the chat is: do you want to start with the National Division or end with the National Division? Are we starting or ending with the National? A few bits of chat here in the chat about the officiating. I think a chunk about. I'm not sure it's particularly you. Necessarily you as, but there's been a lot of flack that's been flying around about the officials. Somebody calling Stephen Matthews a stain on the game the other weekend hasn't gone down very well. The response of certain people to that refereeing course that's come out from UK that's taking place down in Swindon. I think the refs are catching a lot of flack at the moment, and some of it isn't necessarily justified. You can be constructive of the critical of the officials. I was fortunate to have a discussion with a current National Division official whose name I won't put out on here to save their embarrassment of having to talk to me. But I think the interesting thing, when people call them bias, I think is ridiculous. And to quote the person I was speaking to, we don't give a toss about the score. We don't care who wins. We're there to officiate the game. And I think you can be constructive of their decisions. You can be critical of their decisions. You're within your right to disagree with what's happened. But I think we've got to get better at how we voice those criticisms, I think. And I don't blame. I have certainly the nature of my criticism of officials has changed, and it's less about individual calls and more about overall management of the game and the incidents around it, I think, is the thing I found. But yeah, certainly the officials are not. Don't seem to be very, very popular with certain people at the moment. They're also not expressing it in a proper way. Anyway, we better look at time to look at the fixtures and the bits and pieces. Do we want National Division first or last, everybody? Are we wanting National Division first or last? So we're going to talk about some bit. Would have been my thing. Thoughts and views in the chat. One person says first, one person says last. Helpful. So the next vote is going to break the tie. First or last for the National Division, or do we crack on with the other divisions first? Just having a look at a few bits and pieces. Constantly checking now for news. This is the joy of being able to do this. Third. Thank you, Joe. That is not helpful at all. Well, we've got 2 votes for first, so let's get the national. We'll do the National Division, get them out of the national out of the way then. So we go back. So of course, this was the weekend, the 28th, 29th, and 30th of October. Of course, there was Friday Night Lights for the National Division. Of course, Friday night, the Bees and the Raiders over in Slough, an 8-4 win for the Raiders in this one, who are starting to really, really pick up some momentum, and a majority of that is coming through the actions of, well, 2 men for the most part. No European attack, but Mateo Gomicic and Adam Leishram are really, really starting to get on a roll. 2 goals for Gomicic in this one, 2 for Leishram as well. 2 goals as well in this game for Jake Sylvester. Just trying to double checking actually who scored there, because that's 2 and 2 would make that. We'll make that 6. Aaron Connolly definitely got 1, and then certainly goals for the Bees coming from JJ Pitchley, James Galazzi, Juha Lindgren. Oh no, Leishram got a hat trick, didn't he? Leishram got a hat trick, which would make sense. On that front. So there we go. Guarantee every single official will know far more about the rules than those watching the teams from the stand. And the other thing as well, fans forget, John, we're static. We don't move. Refs are moving all the time. You can know the rules inside and out, but you're sitting still in one point, getting one view of the game, whereas the ref is a constant moving object. Later showed his class last season for MK, but when Cliff put him on that third line, his momentum was lost. It just seems to be being able to play with a bit more freedom in Romford at the moment as well. But either way, hat trick for Later and 2 for Gomicic, and then 2 for Jake Sylvester in there as well, and 1 for Aaron Connolly. And then Dominic Goodbye, James Galassi, JJ Pitchley, and Juha Lindgren with the goals there for the Bees. Saturday, the Bees that win 4-3 against Basingstoke, which was just utterly bloody infuriating. Hat-trick for Brendan Walker, 1 goal from Alan Lack, goals for the Bison in that one coming from Zach Milton, Gale Lewelle, and George Norcliffe in that one. Not a good game. And that's not in the sense of I'm upset that the Bison lost. It just wasn't a very good game of hockey. The Bees were playing with 12 outskaters and needed the game to be a mess. And on an ice sheet that was mushy as all hell, they managed to turn the game into a mess and pounced. That is the way to win those kind of games when you have virtually no players and you're losing. Not only did the Bees have makeshift defense, they'd lost makeshift defensemen. They'd had been playing Josh Smith on D, and he was hurt and didn't play. And my understanding as well is that they potentially lose. They've already lost Dan Weller-Evans. They potentially have lost other guys to injury as well. I know JJ Pitchley left the game on Saturday with a massive cut on his face. There's talk potentially that there's some injury suffered from Sunday's game as well for the Bees, so obviously not ideal for them. Elsewhere then on Saturday evening from the 29th, finally, a small little dent in the arm. What happened at the start of base? Up 2 loads of snow into different parts of the rink. That's why we were late. Had a bit of a mare driving old Doris, and it kind of went wrong. But a small little dent in the armour of the Leeds Knights because somebody has finally taken a point off of them. Leeds 6, Sheffield 5 after overtime. The Steel Dogs fight, and the Steel Dogs still managed to concede 5 goals, but they get a point out of them when nobody else has managed to do so before. Lewis Baldwin, Kieran Brown. Oh, my phone's managed to wake itself up. Lewis Baldwin, Kieran Brown, Cole Shudra, Matt Hayward, Adam Barnes scoring the goals in regulation for the Knights. For the Steel Dogs, 2 from Matt Bistonet, a goal from James Spur, Vlad Volkanovs, and then pretty soon it was Lee Hayward as well. Those were the goals that made it 5-5. And then, of course, who else but the captain of the Leeds Knights, Kieran Brown, with the OT winner. But Sheffield get a point out of them. Sheffield get a point out of Leeds, which nobody else has managed to do before. MK and Peterborough met at the Thunderdome on Saturday, and a 5-3 win there for the MK Lightning, who have started to wobble a teeny tiny bit as of recently. Lewis Christie, Tim Wallace with 2 goals, Sean Norris and Bobby Chamberlain with goals for the Lightning there. Lucas Ludkowski, Corey McEwen, and Ralph Sisenis with the goals for the Peterborough Phantoms. I ain't gonna lie, Ralph Sisenis has managed to hang on in Peterborough longer than I thought he would, and he seems to be sticking around. We won't repeat MK's scouting assessment of the former Solent. Also met on Saturday evening down at the Link Centre, and a measure of revenge for the Wildcats. They win by 5-1 against Telford in this one. Aaron Nell's goal cancelled out by Thomas Byrne, who's been on a lovely little run as of late for the Tigers. But then goals for second of the night from Nell, as well as goals for Russ Cowley, Reed Sayers, and Chris Jones, making it 5-1. And then we got to get to it. We got to talk about it. But finally, every team in the National Division has got a win. The Hull Seahawks are finally off the mark. Bristol 2, Hull 3 after a shootout. I'm sure there'll be fodder for the Supporters Club quiz at the bar at the world's most versatile arena going going forward. Ed Bradley and Mason Lipsey with the goals for Bristol. And then Alex Kent and Owen Brutton, who's 16 as well, bless his little heart, getting the equaliser there. It goes all the way to the shootout. Bristol do not score. Goals from Sam Towner and Tom Stubley are the ones that managed to do it. Hull get their win finally. Delighted for Matty Davies, delighted for the ownership in Hull, delighted for the fans, and delighted for the players as well. They have turned up week in, week out with a short bench, with all these problems from the Home Office. I did drop Matty Davies a little message just to say congratulations, and now for the next one. So we will hopefully see. I ain't going to lie, though. I have a horrible feeling they're going to win in Basingstoke because I'm sat there holding a tin of chips, boys. But such is life on that front. Anyway, that was Saturday. We then head into Sunday, where it was a little bit of a reverse. You can see there in the chat. Sarkanis looks a really good player. Lots of speed about him. Some of the best hands I've seen in a long time, which is probably why you signed him. We're mixing up the lines in a minute. Anthony's still a work in progress. Well, it couldn't have. MKE look very, very good. I think the problem is that somebody needs to beat Leeds, otherwise they're going to start really pulling away. Either way, they met Saturday in the Thunder Day. They met Sunday in Breton, Peterborough, and MK. And unfortunately for the Lightning, well, to be fair, second versus third, the fact the two sides split the two games across this weekend isn't a huge surprise. But a 7-4 Peterborough win in this one. Duncan Spires, Tom Norton, Connor Pollard, Brad Bowering. Have I read that right? Yes. Brad Bowering, Jasper Foster, another one from Spires, and then another from Lucas Ledkowski. Goals for the Lightning coming from Ed Nags, David Sarkanis, another one from Sarkanis, and I'm just trying to see who scored the. Two from Sarkanis, one from Nags. I'm trying to see who scored the other one. Sam Talbot. There we go. Sam Talbot got there in the end. Thank you. Got to say it now. Bison to beat Leeds. We got painfully close in Basingstoke, and I think that was what was so frustrating about this run. Losing 6 in a row isn't so much of an issue if you play well, but the last 3 they've not played very well at all. Whereas they played brilliantly against Leeds and really pushed them. Played really well against Sheffield and pushed them. But then the last 3 games they've just been poor. Really, really poor. But yeah, so 7-4 win. 7-4 win there. Having come really, really close, could Sheffield do it against Leeds on Sunday? The answer was no. Leeds with a 4-1 win at Sheffield on Sunday. So the run just keeps on going. It is utterly ridiculous. Matt Hayward, Kieran Brown, Lewis Baldwin, and Carter Hamill for the Knights. The lone goal from the Steel Dogs coming late on from Vlad Volkanovs to at least get Steel Dogs a goal out of the game. Hull and Bristol then they did an about face. They met in Bristol on Saturday. They headed to the world's most versatile arena on the Sunday, but this time all smiles for the folk from the southwest. A 3-0 win for the Pitbulls up in Hull. A 23-shot shutout for Will Curling. Goals from Alex Roberts, Owen Sobchuk. Scoring 2 in that one, a breakaway goal late in the game, killing that one off for the Pitbulls. And then I'm just going to get depressed about this one. Raiders 7, Bison 1. I don't have the scorers in front of me for this one, unfortunately, because I usually use my write-up that I do for the Bison website, and I don't write about our game, so I don't have anything in there. But spoiler alert, Bison didn't play very well. Romford played really well and deserved to win. That's pretty much all we can say on that front. And then the thing was, though, is that it's always, when those situations happen, it's always really bad. However, somebody always has it worse. Telford 10, Bracknell 1 was the final score there. The lone goal for the Bees coming from Josh Martin. Goals for the Tigers: Jason Silverthorne, Finley Howells with a hat-trick, Vlad Luca, Brody Jessen, Scott McKenzie. 2 goals from Lucas Price and 1 from Corey Goodison. So that rounds out the bits and pieces in terms of the fixtures from across the weekend in the National Division. Now, what we can do, of course, on the EIHA Game Day page, and thankfully they actually remembered eventually to credit him after I shouted that. And big shout out, of course, to our friend Joe Scutts from NIHL Stats. There are now league tables on the EIHA website that Joe has put together himself. And it doesn't really take a massive amount of work to figure out who is top at the moment. The Leeds Knights, perfect through 12, 7 wins at home, 5 away, 24 from 24, 64 goals scored in 12 games. Puts them ahead of the pack. They've played 12 games. Peterborough played 14 and have 22, ahead of Milton Keynes, who have 19 from 13. Sheffield also have 19. They've played 14 games and don't have as good a record against MK. Telford are in 5th. They have 16 from 15, followed by the Raiders, and they have recent brilliant resurgence. With Gomachich and Leysham leading the way. They have 15 from 14. Swindon 14 from 12. Basingstoke with their six-game losing streak, having been 5-3. They're now 5-3. They're now 5-9. So they have 10 points from 14 games. They round out the playoff places. Bristol 9 from 13. Bees 7 from 14, and at the bottom is Hull. They're 1-14. But they do at least have a 1. But the bigger issue for the Seahawks, they've scored 22 goals in 15 games. The nearest team to them is actually Basingstoke, and Basingstoke have scored 41 goals at the moment. Well, there we go. That's the national division at the moment. Plenty of fun and games there. Thank you, Andrew. Connolly with 2, Leysham with 2, Ailiff, Huggett, and Jackson, and the lone Bison goal. They're coming from Ryan Sutton. So that tells you how poor the Bison's form is at the moment. And to be fair though, that's a little bit harsh actually, because from a Bison perspective, the most consistent line has been this combination that Basingstoke are on of Paul Petts in the middle of Ryan Sutton and Hallam Wilson. They have just been very, very consistent recently, and they've been a bright spot in some very poor performances recently. What else have we got in the chat here? Finney House, 10 goals in 5 games. Definitely something Telford are going to need. They're going to get a bit higher up the league. Grant Cooper out of Saturday game in MK after picking up a match for high sticking. Leeds' biggest test on Saturday night. Now, I know Jamie McElroy, of course, was commentating on the stream at the weekend. And he felt that the match penalties handed out there were a bit overzealous on the part of the officials. Obviously very, very tough there, but you can't. It is what it is, actually. And, Leeds are going to face a bit of adversity now, and they need to kind of figure out what they're going to do. Who's going to step up and fill Cooper's shoes? Oh, wait, they've just signed another forward. So what are they going to do on that front there? Oh, well. However, will we survive on that front? Seahawks lacking firepower in the final third. Yep, that's what happens when your 2 imports are sat in a foreign country not doing anything. That's really frustrating. Either way, what we will do, because I can see the time, we've obviously had a lot of extra bits to kind of talk about today that we wouldn't normally chat about. We will quickly bang our way through the tables and bits and pieces, the results and the tables and stuff from the other divisions in the NIHL. Starting up in Division 1 in the north, of course, and a bit of a mixed. Certainly a mixed weekend for our favourite team in North 1, of course. But Saturday, a couple of games on Saturday from North 1. Billingham 8, Nottingham 1, which was a combined league and cup game. A very, very tough night in the office there for the Nottingham Lions. But again, a good start to this year for Billingham, who've been a bit higher up the table than they were to start off last year. Sheffield 1, Widnes 3, that poor start for the Scimitars really starting to bite back now. They really need to kind of get a result to get any sort of momentum going. And then Solway 5, Blackburn 2, which is given the fact that Solway have got that 1 overtime loss against their name to Billingham, it means that if they're wanting to keep pace for the title, they need to keep picking up those wins. Into Sunday then, a mixed weekend for Billingham. They end up losing at home 4-1 to Whitley in the League and Cup, so keep Whitley's place in the title hunt. Nottingham 8, Sheffield 4s. Nottingham were 7-1 up at one stage in this game. Not the best back end of that. They did get a little complacent, our friends from the NIC, but they do manage to hold on and get an 8th goal and pull the win out of the bag there. And then Solihull 7, D-side 0. D-side's good starts. Certainly in the cup, as sort of fallen away a little bit in the league. Though D-side are yet to play a home game in league play. What that means for the North, for North 1, it means that, well, we've said it a lot, but it's not the case at the moment. 11 games played for the top 3 teams. Whitley top though. They only have the one loss. At the moment, they're 10-1, 20 points from 11 games. Solway, because that overtime loss to Billingham, have 19 from 11. That league title race is far from over. The other team that's played 11 games, Billingham, they are 5 points back in third place and 14 from 11. Solihull have 10 from 9. Widnes 8 from 9. Sixth place, the Nottingham Lions they are a 4-7 record. Isn't the best of records, but it's a very, very good start from our friends, the second team of the what's current stream. They have 8 points from 11 games. Blackburn 6 from 9. Deeside 2, but they have 2 points, but they've only played 5 games. And the Scimitars with just the lone point at the moment from their 10 games played. Into Southwell at the weekend, a relatively full load of fixtures there from Southwell. Saturday evening, the local derby at Sapphire Ice and Leisure. The Romford Junior Raiders with a 5-3 win over the Chelmsford Chieftains. We did speculate I personally thought Chelmsford were going to be a much bigger threat in terms of league play than they have been so far, and it's just not quite been going their way so far this season. Slough 3, Invicta 2, a good win for that very, very young Slough side, who are, certainly in league play at least, doing some really, really good things. Solent 4, Oxford 2, down in Gosport in the early face-off, and then in the on the high road, Streatham 7, Milton Keynes 1. Certainly not a result people would have been that overly surprised at. It was largely Southern Cup action on Sunday, so these games won't count towards the league table, but some very interesting results, particularly down in Gillingham. Invicta 6. Streatham 9. Goals was the order of the day in Gillingham. Slightly opposite the football club in that sense. Oxford with an 8-4 win over Chelmsford in the Southern Cup, and Solent have a very good weekend. They get 2 wins from 2 with a 5-3 win over the Romford Junior Raiders. Now, I don't believe, at least on here, there is a Southern Cup table, but I believe Joe does have one on his site, so we will quickly pull that up just while we're chatting. Chieftains were 3-1 up in Romford as well. Oof, sold out in Gillingham on Sunday night as well. Wouldn't surprise me actually. I know the fans in Gillingham do like their games against Streatham. We'll just very quickly see. I'm pretty certain you've got a cup table in here, haven't you? So they've got the 2 groups from the cup. So in terms of the cup, of course, the big issue for Streatham are currently bottom of the cup table in Group A because of their games that they got awarded against them, because of playing Banja Antonov. But in terms of Group A in the Southern Cup, Oxford are top, 6 points, 3 wins from 4 games. Invicta 4 points from 5. Chelmsford 4 from 4. Streatham 4 from 5. Because of their issues in terms of Banja Antonov. Southern Cup Group B, Solent are perfect through 5 games. They're 5 from 5 in the cup. Slough have only played 2 cup games and have 2 points and from their 1 win and 1 loss. MK 2 points from 4. Romford 2 from 4 as well. In the league, Streatham have only played 4 games, so the table is slightly distorted. But Slough are top of NIHL 1 South at the moment. 5 wins from 7, 10 points from 7 for them. Streatham now are perfect through 4 games. They have 8 from 4. Solent 6 from 4. Apologies. Invicta then in 4th place. They have 4 from 5. Chelmsford also 4 from 5, but the worst goal difference. Oxford 4 from 6. MK 3 from 4. Romford Junior Raiders bottom of the table at the moment. They have 3 points, but they have only played 3 games of league play so far. Streatham must win and hope Oxford beat Chelmsford and Invicta. Streatham can qualify for the cup semi-finals. Needed to get an extra goal, so pulled the goal at 9-5 and Invicta scored. Oh my days! What a fantastic bit of news there. Thank you very much for that, Joe. That is some excellent bit of a little stat there. But that's the joy of cup bits and pieces. We've had a tweet in from Sally from Hull. Thank you, us Hull fans, for thrill. We're waiting. Just waiting for our first home win now. I think the roof will go off. I think you're probably right there, Sally, on that front. What we need to do, we need to go to our friends in North 2. Of course, never have tons of games, but always tons of action in North 2. Games from a few games on Saturday actually in North 2. Cracker as well over in Greater Manchester. Altrincham 8, Nottingham 7 after overtime, which is a few crazy games in terms of scoring in terms of scoring in the last over this weekend, which is always fun to see. You could defend, or you could not defend, which apparently appears to be the way of doing things. Bradford 3, Telford 5. Of course, Telford's still making that push for the wanting to retain their league title. Sheffield Titans 1, Coventry NIHL place 7. Neither lower NIHL side for Sheffield, particularly having great years so far. And then Sutton 2, Hull 6, as they obviously look to keep the pressure on Telford in terms of that league title. Then a few of those were cup games as well. Just the one league game then on Sunday, and a 4-3 overtime win for the Altrincham Aces against the Sutton Sting. We're just popping down to the cup tables for 2 North, because there have been some games there. Group A, Telford with their one overtime loss. That's marked on here. They have 7 points from 4 games. Sutton 6 from 4. Bradford and Coventry both have 2 points from their 4 games. In Group B's cup table, Hull are perfect as well. They have 4 from 4, 8 points. Altrincham 4 from 3. Sheffield 2 from 3. The Nottingham Lions with just the lone point in cup play. In terms of the league table itself, no huge surprises really then in North too. So they've both been battling away, but where the difference being, Telford have lost 2 games in overtime, whereas Hull just have the one outright loss. So Hull have won more games, but are technically below Telford at the moment. Both have 14 points from 8. Altrincham are in third. They have 10 from 7. Sheffield 9 from 9 are fourth. Followed by Sutton, who have 8 from 10. The Nottingham Lions have 7 from 9. Coventry have 7 from 9 as well, but the worst record against the sides. And then bottom of the table, Bradford with 3 wins and 6 points from their 8 games. Just quickly check nothing in there. And then, of course, that leads us to South 2, which is absolutely massive by comparison and always makes me laugh. Saturday, then, another decent win for the Bristol Pitbulls. They get a 3-2 overtime win away at Haringey in Alexandra Palace. And a decent win as well for the Invicta Mustangs. They win away from home 4-3 away in Peterborough against the Phantoms. Pretty full Sunday that it was in South 2. A good win for the Bases at Buffalo, a 6-2 win over the Solent Junior Devils in league action, and a good weekend for the Pitbulls. They get a 5-1 win over the Oxford Rising Stars, a win over their former landlords. Cardiff have had a very strange start to the year. They lose 10-4 at home against the Invicta Mustangs, and another big win for the Streatham Blackhawks. They win at the Riverside. They beat the Chelmsford Warriors 11-3 down in Essex. And our friends the Lee Valley Lions still plugging away, and they do get on the score sheet, but they still lose by 7-1 against the Peterborough Phantoms. Quickly pulling up the cup table. Group A from the South 2 Cup has Invicta at the top. Guildford, of course, lost the game, which caused them a problem. So Invicta have 8 from 4. Guildford 6 from 4. Bristol have 4 from 2. Oxford 2 from 3 for 4th place. Peterborough 2 from 3. Swindon 2 from 4. Solent are winless as it stands. Group B of the cup table, Streatham Blackhawks, perfect through 3 games, 6 from 3. Chelmsford 6 from 6, so that's why Streatham are top there. Bases have only played 2 cup games so far. They have 2 from 2. Cardiff 2 from 3. Haringey 2 from 2. And Lee Valley 2 cup games so far, no points. You'll forgive our surprise on that one. But in terms of the league itself, it's a different name at the top of the table at the moment. The Bristol Pitbulls, with just the 1 defeat in league play so far, 16 from 9 sees the team from the southwest at the top of the table. Guildford, 14 from 8, so a similar record, but just don't have as many points. 14 points as well for the Invicta Mustangs. They've had a really good start to the year. 7-1, same record as Guildford, but definitely not as good a goal difference there. Streatham, of course, have also had a decent start to the year, a similar-ish record, but they've only played 7 games. They are 12 from 7. Haringey are then 5th. They have 11 from 8. Oxford, 9 from 10. Cardiff, 8 from 10, and Chelmsford Warriors have 6 from 8 to round off the playoff places. Below them are Peterborough in 9th with 6 points from 7 games. Swindon 4 from 5. Basingstoke 4 from 7. Lee Valley and Solent are both on 0 points. Solent have played 7 games to Lee Valley's 8. Lee Valley have scored 6 goals in 8 games and conceded 74. Solent have scored 13 but conceded 60. And that's it. We've managed to make our way through the various fixtures of the through the various games that were played last weekend in the National Ice Hockey League across its variety of divisions. Crazy thoughts, feelings. I know it's 5-2. We've run a little bit later than usual. Questions, comments, anything anybody wants to chuck into the chat before we start going through the fixtures for bits and pieces. Throwing those out there, and also just quickly trying to pull up the fixtures from the various places, because we are going to have obviously we're going to have a few bits and pieces that we need to pull our way through. Just pressing buttons, but yes, questions, comments. So Stretton must win and hope Oxford beat Chelmsford and Invicta. Yeah, give your boy stats access. Yeah, it's been a busy one for you, mate, hasn't it? Bless your heart. That's South 1. We've gone too far back there because we want that one to say. So there's South 2, there's North 2, there's South 1, we want that one, and that one. Just trying to get all of the various bits and pieces into alignment and have all of the different fixture lists open. What I want is South 2, that should hopefully be, that's North. Just trying to find all of them in order, because what we're going to do is we're going to run it through national, and we'll do the national division last. There we go. Yeah, questions, comments, anything else anybody kind of wants to chuck into the chat before we start rolling too far down the road? We'll just tee up our fixtures here, so I'm just kind of bash through them very, very quickly. Always an easy option to do there in North 2 to get any of the fixtures up, because there's just physically not that many of them. Very bizarre league, but a lot of fun. I enjoy the bits of North 2 that I see. I think watching that Nottingham Lions game against Hull was good to get them involved. Get me actually managed to kind of get some eyes on the hockey, on the product itself, rather than thinking too hard about it. So that's fine. Cool beans. Will Sportal be up and running? No, not this weekend. It blooming won't be. It really does feel we're not going to get this until the new year, which is ridiculous when you consider bits and pieces, all things considered. Like I say, you've got elite prospects, you've got Mara at elite prospects, you've got Joe kind of sitting around, and the people who are able to kind of do things quickly and at speed, and the IHA is not giving them the access they're wanting to help, and not being, and just the things are falling on deaf ears is crazy. And I've heard stories also this week of people from other parts of hockey who've contacted the IHA, said they wanted to do bits and pieces with them, and just not heard back, which is just infuriating, really. I mean, it's all well and good for me. I'm an articulate loudmouth who just sort of pokes and prods at them when they make bad decisions. But if they needed the help, they've got to reach out and they've got to ask for the help. They can't expect people to do all the running, I think, is probably the only way to describe it, really. I think it's very sort of frustrating that people are kind of expected to how are people expected to magically know when to help on that front? I think that's just bizarre. Anyway, let's quickly bash through the fixtures for the NIHL for this weekend. We'll start at the bottom and work our way up. So we finish with South 2. So we'll start in South 2. Not tons and tons of games this weekend. A couple on for this coming Saturday for Bonfire Night itself, the 5th of November. Will there be fireworks across the NIHL? Probably in a lot of places. But Saturday, 5:15 p.m, the Invicta Mustangs and the Lee Valley Lions down in Gillingham. And just the one other game, which is a League and Cup game. It's 6:30 p.m. face-off at the Spectrum for the Guildford Phoenix and the Peterborough Phantoms. Into Sunday the 6th, League and Cup action at 6 p.m. down in Gosport, the Solent Junior Devils and the Bristol Pitbulls. I feel that game's probably going to go one way. Also, just a league game at the Link Centre, the Swindon Wildcats and the Haringey Huskies. But League and Cup action down in Cardiff Bay, the Stretton Blackhawks travel down to meet the Cardiff Fire. Up into North 2, then League and Cup action on Saturday. 5:30 p.m. face-off for the world's most versatile arena. The Hull Jets and the Altrincham Aces will meet. And then the 7:30 p.m. face-off at the Sky Dome for the Coventry NIHL Blaze against the Sutton Sting. Sunday the 6th is purely league action, no cup games on the 6th. The 2 p.m. face-off at Ice Sheffield for the Sutton Sting and the Sheffield Titans, a local derby there. And a 4:15 face-off in Greater Manchester. The Altrincham Aces taking on the Telford Tigers. Altrincham there with a big say potentially in what can happen to the league title. If Altrincham come out this weekend with a 4-point weekend, it will certainly leave a bit of a bloody nose in the two title contenders. South 1 then on this coming weekend, just the 2 games on Saturday, both in the league. 5 p.m. face-off down in Gosport for the Solent Devils and the Streatham Red Hawks. There will definitely be fireworks in that game of some description. And then 6:30 p.m. at the Hangar, the Slough Jets take on the bottom-placed Romford Junior Raiders. Into Sunday, just the one game I can see in the Southern Cup. That's in Milton Keynes between the MK Thunder and the Slough Jets. That's at 6:45 p.m. The others are all league face-offs. 5 p.m. face-off for a reverse of Saturday night. Streatham hosts Solent. 5:15 down in Gillingham, Invicta versus Romford. And a 6:15 face-off in the University City. The Oxford City Stars take on the Chelmsford Chieftains. North 1 then, just the one game of note on Saturday. It's in the league and the cup. It's a 7 p.m. face-off at Dumfries between the Solway Sharks and the Sheffield Scimitars. Solway needing a win there to definitely sort of keep pace. Sunday though, a couple of interesting games. Just a league game only at 5:10 p.m. between the Sheffield Scimitars and the Blackburn Hawks. And then League and Cup action, 5:30 p.m. at the Forum, the Billingham Stars and the Solihull Barons. And a 7:15 p.m. face-off on Sunday for the Nottingham Lions and the Whitley Warriors. League and Cup there. The Lions could do Solway a favour. I'm not sure they'll want to, but they might do Solway a favour if they can somehow squeak out a result against Whitley that they've been able to do in the past. That then leads us to a lovely full programme in the National Division for this coming weekend. Saturday the 5th of November, a couple of 6:30 p.m. face-offs. Basingstoke, of course, they'll be looking for a measure of revenge as they take on the Raiders in Hampshire. Also 6:30 p.m. face-off down the M4 at the Link Centre. The Swindon Wildcats take on the Bees. 7 p.m. face-offs then in the remainder of the games. Bristol versus Sheffield. Milton Keynes versus Leeds. Massive game there in terms of the title race. And Telford take on Hull. Sunday the 6th then, a lot of earlier face-offs. 5 p.m. face-off at the Hangar for the Bees versus the MK Lightning. 2 games facing off at 5:15. Leeds welcome Bristol to the Castle at Ellen Road, and Raiders take on Telford. 5:30 p.m. face-offs then at the world's most versatile arena for the Hull Seahawks against the Swindon Wildcats, and the Peterborough Phantoms take on the Basingstoke Bison. So there we go. Then there are our fixtures for the majority. For the rest of the weekend across the NIHL. Still don't have a home game now till the 20th of November. Crazy, isn't it? But such is the way of things. Looking forward to Jamie abusing me all night on Sunday. Well, you pay him enough, you never know what he'll get out of him there, Joe. But there we go. Questions, comments, anything anybody wants to throw into the chat. It's been you coming to Peterborough? I'm not. No. Away games are a luxury for me because of family commitments and bits and pieces of that. I think to remember, Kev, is I have a 5-year-old son and a wife who would quite like me to spend time with that 5-year-old son. So that is kind of where I land. I tried to do some. I would love to do some do more away games, but it's also about balancing hockey with my actual life. And as much as I love this sport and I love writing about this sport, my son is more important. And I think if my wife says I should spend time with the boy, I should spend time with the boy. I think is probably how that one goes. But yeah, I'll get back to Peterborough again soon. So at some stage. But yeah, obviously, I have to keep tabs in the way I possibly can. And if nothing else, being at home on a Sunday, it does mean I can watch the Nottingham Lions make me laugh across bits and pieces. Should also be said, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but the Lions are working on some bits in the background that will be very, very interesting. So I was privy to seeing part of a bit of a project some people are working on, and when it comes out, it's going to be brilliant. I think it's due to the Steelers being at the arena for most of them. They may well be, but Yeah, I mean, it's the Steel Dogs have to work with that great intrinsic factor of dealing with, the fact that they are not the first team in the city, but they're completely separate of each other. So. But yeah, questions, comments, anything else anybody wants to kind of throw out there? Of course, the NHL starting to get really rocking and rolling. Interesting. I don't know who watched any bits and pieces. Obviously, the Caps are wobbling all over the place, away from trying to win a cup to getting Ovechkin over the line in terms of Gretzky. But I think he's going to catch Howe before too long, so that's going to be really interesting. New Jersey going very well at the moment. I watched a bit of their game on Sunday against Columbus, and they gave them an absolute slapping around, and they won last night as well. So a team that's might be when New York were kind of the young team who kind of overachieved a little bit last year. Are New Jersey going to be the team this year? I wonder. The Elite League, Glasgow finally won. That was a bit of a laugh. Obviously, things sort of continue apace there. Guildford overperforming still. Those old EPL fans will never take any pleasure in watching Guildford do well, irrespective. So, likely to wear a pink jersey to raise game for breast cancer in the coming weeks. That's good to hear. Good special jerseys are always quite hard, I find. I know the Bees are doing like a Remembrance Sunday one. I'm always, like I say, I'm not a big fan of special jerseys. I don't think British teams do them very well. I also personally, I don't think Remembrance Sunday is the one to do a special jersey for. Now, don't get me wrong. People will disagree with me on that particular one. I don't think the remembrance of the dead of war is something necessarily to do a jersey for. It just doesn't sit right with me personally. But I get why people like it, and it is what it is on that front. Disagreement is not disaster. It's pretty much the way of it. The other thing to kind of throw out there is, of course, thank you for those of you who joined me the other day when I was opening hockey card packs on Twitter. That was a good laugh. 30 packs of the Tim Hortons hockey cards. I do have a small collection of doubles that are available. I will listen to offers, I suppose, is probably the best way to describe that. So if you want to get some hockey cards that are pretty decent, very, very short run, and aren't available readily in Britain unless you buy them off of eBay like I did, drop me a line. I'll listen to offers for them. There's not that many. Like I said, there's 16 of the ones that I've already got. So if you're interested, then do shout. I'm waiting eagerly for 22-23 Upper Deck Season 1, Series 1 to come out. It should come out in the next week or so that'll be a lot of fun there. Lightning also doing Remembrance Day jersey versus Telford. Yeah, it's not a big surprise. And like I said, I personally don't like. However, like Remembrance is a collective and it's a continuing act. So if people want to commemorate in that way, like it's not for me necessarily to say yes or no, but it's just not for me. I don't think it's appropriate. For me, it's a bit too celebratory of the thing rather than commemorative, if you see what I mean. Best I can do for the cards is £3.50 and a Peterborough Phantoms half-season ticket. All temptation. Although, of course, Joe, I do still have a card for you here, so you do need to come and get it at some point. Either way, we're edging towards the 70-minute mark here, so I'll say last call for bits and pieces. I'm just going to quickly. We've had a fair bit of news to talk about over here, of course. So obviously, tons and tons and tons. Just going to very, very quickly check and just make sure nothing else has happened in the intervening moments whilst we've been talking about bits and pieces. No, it doesn't appear to be any other news in the immediacy that touches us here at BOTW from an NIHL perspective as well. There we go. Captain Drew has continued to. The Washington Capitals seem to be losing players left, right, and centre. Trade for Connor Brown to lose him after less than 10 games. Great start. I think that probably what we will need to do though, yeah, we've hit the 70-minute mark. I think it's probably best that we call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for everything relating to the basis of Bison for over a decade. Player comings, player goings, an assortment of other crazy bits related to it. Running with the herd, match night pieces as well that we do, as well as our hockey stories series. Long form, long content pieces about the weird, wonderful, and crazy world of hockey. Usually with a British slant, but we've touched on everything, going as far back as the Cold War, and even further back than that in terms of one of our pieces. And coming up to the present day, players, referees, and like I say, there is a really good one. And I haven't even written most of it yet, and I already know, just because of the interview subject is, this is good. This is going to be really good. You know it's going to be a good piece when I have to get it authorised by the team. So that's coming on to list in future. Also, there, the back catalogue of the old BOTW podcast is there. So old episodes, some old interviews I did with people from across the from across the spectrum of hockey. Former Manchester Storm, former Iceland Berlin head coach Jeff Tomlinson, David Longstaff, the original Nicky Watt interview from back when he was originally banned. A bunch of those are over there, as well as the tabletop ice hockey simulation game Dice Hockey that I made during the pandemic. It's something fun that people could do with their families. It's free to download, or if you do download it and you do enjoy it, I do ask that you consider chucking some money towards Parkinson's UK as a thank you. But there is a bunch of stuff for you to read and enjoy over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, facebook.com/bannersonthewall if you like your news to come through your Facebook feed. Every piece that goes on the website goes onto the Facebook feed, so that's a really good way to do it. But the best way to interact with me, and usually where we do this, the NIHL's first and only live show that covers all 5 divisions in one crack, the BOTW What's Current stream, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. But the best place to kind of keep touch with me, review the news as we go, comments, silly nonsense, or comment about most of the NIHL news and most of the large hockey news. Twitter at BannersOTW, looking to try and get the account over the 2,000 person mark. Please retweet, share stuff you need. It shares and bits and likes and bits and pieces. It all helps the algorithms. It would just be really good to kind of push things on. Really thankful, of course, for every bit of engagement that I get from you lovely people who join us on a Wednesday night. The big question, of course, is Twitter or Facebook? Twitter or YouTube for doing the What's Current stream is going to be the big conversation going forward here. The tech is nice. I do like the easy of the tech on YouTube, I won't lie, but we'll be putting a poll out and kind of see what people think over the next week or so as to whether we come back to YouTube or whether we go back to Twitter Live. Be interested, of course, to hear people's opinions. But either way, yeah, we've gone quite long today, mostly because of the news that kind of broke in the middle of the. We thought we had the news just before with Dan Weller-Evans, and then thank you Blackburn, apparently. But either way, the nights are getting longer and things are getting darker, literally, but hopefully not metaphorically. So be happy. And if you can't be happy, then please do be safe. As my friend Scott Edwards would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. And like I say, Twitter or YouTube, let us know. Have a good weekend, everybody.